For decades, ESPN called itself the worldwide leader in sports, and for a long time nobody really questioned it. But after years of layoffs, shifting priorities, and changing viewer habits, I think it's fair to ask a simple question. Are they still the worldwide leader, or are they becoming something else entirely? Let's start with the numbers. Since 2013, ESPN has undergone multiple rounds of layoffs, with estimates totaling more than 1,400 employees over that span. Most recently, after integrating NFL Media and NFL Network into its operations, ESPN announced another round of cuts affecting both behind the scenes staff and on air personalities. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. We're not talking about a struggling startup, we're talking about one of the most powerful sports media companies in the world, a company with billions in revenue, a company that just spent billions acquiring NFL media assets, a company that continues to secure some of the most valuable sports rights in existence. So naturally, fans look at these layoffs and ask, if there's so much money, why are people still losing their jobs? The common answer is that ESPN is preparing for the future. Cable subscriptions are declining, streaming is growing, the economics of sports media are changing, and all of that is true. But I think that explanation misses a much bigger question. What exactly is ESPN's future supposed to be? For most of its history, ESPN wasn't just a broadcaster, it was a companion. If you missed the game, you watched SportsCenter. If you needed highlights, you watched SportsCenter. If you wanted analysis, you watched PTI. If you wanted debate, Around the Horn was waiting for you. If you wanted journalism, you had the sports reporters, Outside the Lines, E60, and some of the best sports writers and reporters in the business. ESPN wasn't just showing sports, it was helping fans understand sports. That distinction matters, because today, almost everything ESPN once controlled is available somewhere else. Scores, your phone gives them instantly. Highlights, YouTube, breaking news, social media, analysis, thousands of podcasts, community, Reddit, Discord, and online forums. The internet didn't destroy sports fandom, it simply unbundled ESPN. And that's where I think ESPN may have misidentified its competition. Traditionally, people think ESPN competes with Fox Sports, NBC Sports, or CBS Sports. I don't. I think ESPN's biggest competitor is YouTube. Think about it. How many sports fans spend more time watching creators like That's Good Sports, Urinating Tree, John Boy, Secret Base, or countless independent analysts than they do watching ESPN studio programming? Those creators don't own NFL rights, they don't own NBA rights, they don't own broadcast networks, yet millions of fans seek them out every day. Why? Because they're offering something audiences still want: personality, storytelling, humor, perspective, authenticity. Ironically, those are many of the qualities that helped build ESPN in the first place, and that's where the current strategy starts to feel confusing. Many former ESPN personalities have argued that shows like SportsCenter, NFL Live, and PTI generated tremendous value for the network. These weren't just filler programs, they were reasons people came back every day. They built habits, they built loyalty, they built culture. Yet over the past decade, ESPN has often appeared more focused on acquiring rights than developing those experiences. The message seems to be, live sports are everything, but what if they're not? What if live sports are simply the foundation? What if the real value comes from everything surrounding those games? Because let's be honest, you can watch football almost anywhere now. You can get highlights anywhere. You can get reactions anywhere. The thing that once made ESPN special wasn't access, it was context. Look at where sports journalism and storytelling are thriving today. Pablo Torre has built a successful platform focused on curiosity and reporting. The Athletic found an audience willing to pay for quality journalism. Independent creators are producing documentaries, investigations, historical deep dives, and personality-driven content that often feels closer to classic ESPN than modern ESPN itself. That should concern leadership, not because these creators are bigger than ESPN, they're not, but because they're proving that fans still want the things ESPN has gradually moved away from. The demand never disappeared. The audience simply found new places to satisfy it. Which brings us to the app. ESPN clearly believes direct-to-consumer streaming is the future, and strategically, that makes sense. The old cable bundle is fading. Owning the customer relationship matters, but the app raises another question. Why should someone open the ESPN app instead of YouTube, or The Athletic, or Reddit, or a league app, or social media? If the answer is just because we have games, that's a dangerous place to be, because every major tech company in the world is now competing for sports rights. Amazon is in, Netflix is in, Apple is in, YouTube is in, and whether the industry likes it or not, piracy is in too. Now, let me be clear. Piracy is theft. Broadcasters, leagues, and media companies spend billions of dollars acquiring the rights to these games, and unauthorized streams undermine that investment. But from a business perspective, piracy remains part of the competitive landscape. Fans today have more options than ever before, and some will choose unauthorized streams when legal viewing becomes too expensive, too fragmented, or requires juggling multiple subscriptions. That's an uncomfortable reality for the sports media industry. ESPN isn't just competing against Amazon, Netflix, Apple, YouTube, Fox, NBC, or the leagues themselves. It's also competing against the possibility that some consumers decide not to pay at all. That's why simply owning rights is no longer the fortress it once was. 20 years ago, acquiring premium sports rights almost guaranteed an audience. Today, rights are still valuable, but they're no longer enough by themselves. Eventually, every media company has to answer a much harder question. Why should fans choose us when they have so many other options? So what should ESPN do? Personally, I think they should stop trying to be merely the biggest sports broadcaster and start focusing on becoming the most trusted sports media company again. Keep the major rights, keep the NFL, keep the NBA, keep college football, but reinvest in journalism, reinvest in storytelling, reinvest in documentaries, reinvest in personalities, turn creators into franchises instead of treating them as replaceable employees, make SportsCenter feel essential again, dominate YouTube instead of pretending it isn't the future. Most importantly, remember what made ESPN valuable in the first place. It wasn't just the games, it was the people explaining why the games mattered. So, are they still the worldwide leader? In terms of scale, reach, and rights? Absolutely, but being the worldwide leader was never just about broadcasting games. It was about shaping the sports conversation, and today, that conversation is happening everywhere. On YouTube, in podcasts, on independent websites, through creators, through journalists, through communities. ESPN is still one of the biggest voices in sports. The question is whether it's still the voice. And judging by the changes we've seen over the last decade, that answer feels far less certain than it once did. Maybe ESPN isn't dying. Maybe it's simply becoming a company that broadcasts sports instead of defining sports culture. And if that's true, then perhaps the real question isn't whether ESPN is still the worldwide leader, it's whether sports fans still need one.